So mental health and wellness talks about the human being as being in a state they are able to function at that time. So it goes with that resilience, that ability to be self-aware.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, good morning out there, all of our viewers and our followers, and we're grateful and appreciate all of your comments. Please keep them coming. And with me today are my colleagues, the beautiful, fabulous ladies always. Also here with my old friend, I would say so, Professor Liz Brenner. I know her. She helped me many years ago, and we've been talking throughout those years, and she's been there for me when I really needed some good advices. And with us today, she's here. Professor Liz Brenner, over to you.
Hi everybody, and hi Tony. Yes, we have been together for a very long time.
Yes.
It's lucky the viewers can't see how long a time, but it has been a very long time. But I'm still around and alive and kicking, and
Yes.
it's very nice to be here with everybody. And hello again.
Thank you. I'm really glad to have you here. And we also have a beautiful lady from CCDU, Sutukazi. Please, over to you.
Hello, Tony. This is Sutukazi from the Counseling and Career Development Unit. I know we've been talking a lot over the phone, but finally getting to meet each other is fabulous.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so these two beautiful ladies are going to be talking to us today about mental health and wellness. And I'm sure each one of us over there, we really can relate to that. I work with students, and this is also a serious problem in the residences. So today we're going to hear from an academic perspective, Prof. Liz Brenner, and also from CCDU, social worker, somebody who knows and is familiar with counseling students. So viewers, please keep your ears open. Over to you, Sutukazi, can you please tell us what is mental health and wellness?
All right. Thank you so much, Tony. So mental health and wellness talks about the human being as being in a state where they're able to make decisions, a state where they're able to function effectively, regardless of whether there is a situation, whether maybe a person is going through some challenges, but they're able to function at that time. So it goes with that resilience, that ability to be self-aware, that ability to be able to know how to manage situations given that particular context that you are in.
That's a tall task. Functioning
Yes.
in full 100%, no matter what you're feeling, what you're going through in that period of time. Yeah, wow.
I think also for me, I don't know, I think I'm a bit confused because, I mean, functioning, I can interpret functioning in different ways.
Okay.
I, for instance, recently went to the doctor. So when I went to the doctor, I was not feeling well. So I recently had a flu. And when I go there, she checks, she's like, how are you? I'm like, no, I'm not well. Okay, then she does a checkup on me. She's like, no, I don't see much. And then she gives me a script, and then I'm out.
Okay.
So for me, I don't know, when you say functioning, I think of that scenario, and I'm just like, must I look half dead for someone to be actually, for someone to be actually convinced that I'm not well? And you find that that's happening in a lot of situations where people must see, or you must show, or I don't know, it's more of like it's a negotiation now. So this functioning, am I now, according to Tutugile, or according to Tony, or according to Prof. Liz, am I functioning? Do I appear as if I'm functioning?
Yeah.
Or must I appear as if I'm half dead for them to be actually seeing that, okay, she's actually not fit enough to make decisions? And I think also with resilience, we differ. You know, maybe it's for someone, it's one strike and they're just like, oh, you know what, I'm done. And for another person, you can, you know, keep on hammering on them, even though they're half dead, but they're still making those decisions. So, I don't know. It puts me in a
I
hard
think just
place.
chipping in from an academic perspective. So I used to be on the union exec, the academic union executive. And the union did a survey, I think it was about 2016, if I'm correct. And I can't quote you the actual stats, but it was something unbelievable. It was something like 80 to 90% of academics are on antidepressants. When I heard it, I was like, whoa, is this true? And apparently it is true. So when you say, so yes, everybody appears to be functioning. Fortunately, I'm lucky I'm not, but I must be one of the few, because I think there's a hang of a lot of pressure on academics. Pressure from the top, pressure from your colleagues, pressure from the students. There's a lot of pressure that wasn't there before. And I think because I've been here for such a long time, I can sort of compare what academia was 40 years ago and how it's evolved now. And it's quite a difficult space to negotiate.
Is it worse now than it was before?
Yes, very much so.
How so, Liz?
Well, I was just talking to a colleague of mine who actually is a psychologist, but not a clinical psychologist. We were chatting. She's also an academic, a retired academic. And we were chatting, and I was saying, you know, when I started, not that I literally did this, but I could have literally written my exam questions on the back of an envelope and handed it to a secretary and said, please, here are my exam questions. As the years have gone on, we've had to take over all these sort of administrative secretarial tasks. We have to type them. We have to type prac manuals. That was something you never did. So you took over all the administration, marks, all that, which wasn't part of your job before. You had smaller classes. Now you've got huge classes. And I think often the management had the idea that, well, if you're going to talk to 100, you might as well talk to 300, or in my case, 1 year I had 840 in first year. Obviously not all together, but in 2 classes. So if you're not a confident person and you're now faced with 420 students of differing abilities, and some of them are quite demanding, and you get a little anxious about, it's a performance, isn't it? About performing in front of so many students, because they're going to ask you questions on the fly and you have to suddenly come up with an answer and, you know, or have the confidence to say, wait, I really don't know, let's think about that. Let's see if we can work it out. That alone, you can tell me from CCDU perspective, that alone must be quite, cause quite a lot of anxiety. Yes.
Has now not just doubled or tripled, it's exponentially more for the bigger classes, and because it's, as you said, people think that it's just you're talking to 100, you're talking to 800. It's the
but
same
you're
thing.
not talking.
But it's just about that.
Yes.
It's also the admin involved in that.
So it's the admin involved, and also if you're a people person and you're a teacher, you are teaching that many individuals, and they all come with their own problems.
I remember. I think one of the reasons that Liz and I got closer is because of the students, because she was always worrying about those students. It was not just about students. She was always saying it's a holistic view of a student. So she would notice those students were struggling. She would notice those students who come to the university without digital skills, who think they've submitted something, and yet they've just saved it without submitting. So she was basically looking, those students were hungry. I was actually amazed, at her. Like, those students were hungry, and what can she do about those? So imagine now, if out of 840 or 1,000, you also have that burden on top. Now there's research that is a compulsory. And it's not just academics, it's also support staff. We are swamped. There's just so much demands. And yet it seems, I guess it looks like on the outside that they're doing nothing, when actually every bit of time that you spend is accounted for.
Tony, I'm just laughing at you, the response that you gave. Mental health. Can you say it's a positive word? Mm-hmm. It's health. You are healthy. You are in wellness. So sometimes we need to differentiate between the two, where we are saying mental health and mental illness. Can you hear the two?
Yes.
Because when you are healthy, you are in a position where you are able to do A, B, C, D, E. So for me, I'm answering from that positive aspect to say that when you are still able to mark, when you are still able to come, when you are still able to as a student, still able to go to the class and come back
and
submit your assignments, even though you have them back to back, and you still have to go and have a social life. That is the health part of it.
But what is the toll that it takes?
Yes, then now that's where then when we come to that other question where Tony was going to ask about the struggles now. Yes. So now, which means then now it looks at you holistically as a person. Do you understand? Now having the skills, the ability to know, to be self-aware that, okay, right now, I think physically this is what is happening to me, because there's something that we call the mind and body connection, okay? When the mind suffers, the body suffers, because these two are connected. You know, when you're going to go for an interview, and then what usually happens is that stomach, you want to have a running stomach. So there are nerves of the stomach that are connected to your brain. Do you understand? So if this physical body is the one that's suffering, the anxiety that comes with, I can't walk properly and I have to go upstairs, that anxiety of having to go up those stairs then affects the mind. So when you're looking at a person, it has to be holistic. Because, for example, one example I would make, if your physical health is not okay, like even something like an UTI, urinary tract infection, can cause you to have a mental health struggle. Something like hormonal imbalance, it can cause your mental health not to be well. So we need to move, when we're talking about mental health, from the positive. What makes you function? Who are you? What works for you? Coming backwards, so that even you yourself, you're able to identify that right now I'm struggling mentally because my knee has got an issue and I can't go to work and I'm under pressure. Then so you identify.
It's interesting. It's also the other way around. I mean, if you are not healthy mentally, it affects you physically as well. I mean, stress is a huge cause to physical health.
Absolutely.
You know, in some way, it could increase whatever you're feeling at that moment in time physically. If you stress, it can weaken your immune system, so you catch the flu faster.
Yes.
There's somebody that is mentally healthy. And I also find another interesting point that, often maybe even for myself, where I think about mental health, I have this association of negativity. If someone says, look after your mental health, look at it, means that, okay, so I'm thinking about stress, I'm thinking about pressure, I'm thinking about anxiety, I'm not thinking about the happy things, I'm excited, I have this endorphin in me. It's never that kind of associations. So that's
a mindset thing. Health, you can hear, I'm healthy.
But I think also, just to add on what you're saying, May, it's also how it plays out. Because for me, personally, I would say I'm more on the negative side, because I feel like you'll see posters everywhere when you're walking around. You'll see on notices, mental health and wellness. There's, I don't know, maybe lunch discussions, or they're bringing a presenter or whatever. Or even when you rock up here first time as an employee, or there's a mental wellness, whatnot. And then I'm just like, okay, now I'm in here. Then I don't see what's happening.
Nothing.
Must it come from me also to go to those places? Where must I seek it, so it never comes to me? Sort of I'm not saying as an individual I shouldn't introspect and also do the bit on my parts, but I also see nothing coming out of it. For me, it's more of like a tick box thing. Because you see it far-fetched, but you don't see it in action, even as a conversation. Because I mean, if we're going to speak about mental health and wellness, it's simple stuff where for me, I no longer value the how are you to a certain extent. Because if I come to work, oh, hi Tony, how are you? Am I asking Tony, saying how are you because it's the normality,
the expectation.
Hi Tony, how are you? If I don't say hi Tony, how are you, then I'm cold or there's something wrong with me. I'm just making an example because I'm used to saying hi Tony, how are you? And in that how are you, do I even care? I was just how are you? You know. So for me, the wellness part also needs to take place in where I am. For me, I'll speak for myself. That I feel like it's important. It starts with the little things like that before it goes to you maybe might have a need possibly to maybe refer someone because they are not feeling well. Are you even noticing their faces? Do you know Tony on a normal day? Do you know Tony when she's like, where you can actually pick up that, oh, actually, Tony, you don't look like yourself today. Are you okay? You know, so even the conversation, you know, so even when you're working in a team or even if you have colleagues so you pick up those things and then I see that actually Sutukazi doesn't care. So for Sutukazi, she can, I'm just making an example, for Sutukazi she can preach all of these things but it just stays there and then I've clocked out. Then I'm just like, I'm coming to work. Then you start the whole habit of you even coming to work when you're coughing and then people will be like, no, why are you here? Because it's a thing of if I'm not here, who's gonna do it? So I must be sick, go to the doctor, get a note, take time off, then I must still come back to this.
So I think, Zama, you've picked up something. We were also in our chat this morning. I think connections are very important. So thinking back to before I came to Wits, which as you heard was a long time ago, I was a researcher. And that was a very happy time, and I think it was because we worked in a lab. Now, if you do research, your students go into the lab. You don't even go into the lab very often. You just go to have a look and see how everything's going. But, you know, we were in the lab. We chatted all day. Then we also had connections where we would have I think it was once a month, we would have a braai, but we would plan this, you know, it would be, we'd brine prawns one time or sardines the next time, and it was just that connection. I still have the connections with those people, and it was always a joke at Wits that, you know, somebody would say, well, you know, you could die in your office and nobody would notice until you started smelling. So I think with all the extra pressure, and there hasn't been the time to keep those, to forge those connections and make them. So like Zama, you said, yes, you'll say, Tony, how are you? But maybe you don't really care. It's just the thing you do. But you don't actually have those close connections anymore.
Absolutely. I mean, even when one would respond, I'm okay, I'm fine. It's just an automatic response.
Yes. And how often do you say, because that's my automatic response, you know, somebody asks me, how are you? And say, I'm fine. Now that Zama's mentioned the example, I think it's a perfect example of how often, who do I stop and say, no, I'm actually not okay? You know, like, how often do we do that?
But do they even want to hear?
That's the thing, because I know I'm not going to,
Who is supposed to be? Because at the end of the day, that's why we are saying mental health and wellness. I think maybe what we need to start moving towards to having conversation about is the maintenance plan.
Yes.
Do you understand? The maintenance plan, your own maintenance plan. You know, when I talk about forgiveness, I often say the one who is offended is the one that needs to work on themselves because the offender goes their way. Okay, so which means if the one who's offended doesn't take time to take care of themselves and understand what it means to heal from being injured, then they start becoming the perpetrator themselves or something like that, or you are the one who's unhappy. So at the end of the day, when we're talking about mental health and wellness, this thing of maintenance, how do you maintain that in the workplace? Because it also requires some effort from all of us. What can we do? Team building, is that what we want? Once every Friday or every 2 Fridays we're having an intervention or whatever it is. So at the end of the day, if everybody is not putting in the effort, then everybody is going to be waiting for this who that I am asking about. Even 3 staff members, if you are 3 in the office, the 3 of you have something that you'll do rotationally. For example, we have an intervention every Friday, and we sit down as colleagues and then we discuss whatever. We have once a month we have got a breakfast where we go out and we have a breakfast together. So what I'm trying to say is that it requires the team to put that effort and maintain it.
And in the case of an academic, who takes what team do they have? Like,
so you have, yes. So I think you have to have people that you can talk to, and especially if you get higher up in academia, because once you become a head of school, I know that's quite a lonely place.
Okay.
And so very often the person who was my head of school, and I was also in a sort of a more senior role, we could offload to each other. We could talk about anything. And I think that's important, that you actually have that kind of person. It doesn't have to, doesn't matter who it is, but you need to form those, as I say, it's connections. You need to form those connections so you can offload. You can say, gosh, guess what happened, and tell the whole story. And then I don't know, I feel better once I've talked.
Yes.
That's just me personally.
and as South Africans, we laugh, we make fun of everything, and then it's
and even disasters. You know, in the faculty, we'd say things would sort of lurch from one crisis to the next, but you could laugh about it and you could talk about it. And I think that a lot of what's happening in academia, it is like that, because, as I say, there is so much pressure. It's almost like you've got billable hours, except you're not in corporate, but you have this kind of corporatization now, which has become very difficult to navigate.
What's the solution to that? I mean, if you're saying, 70 to 80% of academics are on antidepressants, there's obviously a problem there, right? So what is the solution? And I know you may not have the solution, but what do you think? Because surely there has to be a system change somewhere. We can't keep going through this. Like, if we keep adding this pressure, as you said, over 20 years, it's now increased so much. What happens in the next 20 years if we don't find a maintenance plan or not just for mental health, but I mean, for me, I feel as if what we're doing now is we're teaching people how to cope. So if we have a maintenance plan, or if we have a mental wellness plan, or whatever, so you're teaching me how to cope with these extra pressures. Is that fair, though? Is that the solution, that I have to be able to cope in this pressurized environment? Or should we be looking at this enormous amount of pressure and trying to relieve that pressure? Should we as humans be in this pressurized environment all the time?
Well, you see, I think that's a very important question, and I think that's not related just to us. It's in academia. I think it's life in general now.
In life,
I look at people in corporate environments. They are under such stress.
Yes,
It's unbelievable. I mean, you look at young people and you think they're about to have a heart attack.
Absolutely.
Seriously.
Yes. No, seriously.
So I think that the world has become very pressurized, but the maintenance plan, I think, is one has to personally, and sometimes it's not possible. I think it's possible in academia. It's not always possible in the rest of corporate world. One has to take that time off, where we talked about, say, ballet, where you've got another passion, so that your whole life isn't slotted into this environment. You've got other things, other interests, other things that you do. So that's where your maintenance plan comes in as well. I think that's really important.
True. Because you look at yourself holistically as a person who comes from a community. So Wits is a community. Sandton is a community if you stay there. Your church, your religious places, your sports. So at the end of the day in life, you look at what works. Okay? What works for me? Then once you've identified that this is what works, because one person at work, it might not even be a passion anymore, but when they go and they play sport, you find that they're more passionate that other side. So you must have diversity anywhere as a person. So it's also about self-awareness, the one that I spoke about. Be aware of yourself, know yourself, take time. That's why we recommend counseling or therapy, not when you are in a crisis, because that is what usually happens even with the students. They come the 11th hour, if you know what I mean. Therapy or counseling is also about personal development. So as you are growing as a person, you know there are stages of development as you grow as a person in relationships and all. So as you are growing, there are certain things you yourself begin to recognize about yourself. So at times we dismiss those things. At times we look at those things, but we get stuck and don't know how to move. But because counseling has been associated with clinical work, okay, so you think, I can never go to a psychologist or a social worker or a counselor to talk about personal development. And look, people who've come for personal development, because some students do, they'll be like, I've never had an opportunity to go for therapy or counseling. I've always wanted this. I'm just here for personal development. And you'll find that those sessions are beautiful. And then even they come the following year, and then they'll be like, they want to talk to you again. And then you could see the progress and the development that comes with it. So we also need to shift in that form also, and move this thing of clinical to also positive development, so that you can know that if I'm here and I am not getting the benefit and the satisfaction of feeling 100% well, but I know that when I play tennis, my goodness, I'm my best.
But I like that. There's a negative stigma attached to going for therapy or going for counseling. It's like automatically it means there's a problem and you fixing it. It's always problematic. But I love that idea of personal development. And this is actually a personal development tool. I think that's a nice shift in thinking.
I mean, individually, you would think that, you come out of your parents' house, nest, you're on your own. And then that's not necessarily the case, right? We, as individuals, we want to be part of the community. As you said, we need to go out and reach out, but also when we go out and reach out, we also want that kind of reciprocation. From others, and that sort of Prof said, and everyone mentioned that connection, and you mentioned maintaining that connections and everything else, and we also want someone to guide us. When we lost somewhere, sometimes when you're lost, even though you know what you need to do, but when you're under pressure, you're under stress, you just don't know where to go. You have the compass, but you don't know. All of a sudden, you don't know how to use it. Now you need somebody, especially say counseling, life coaching. You can say it positively. It's not therapy, clinical session. It could be life coaching. Now I would like to find out. I know that student can reach out to CCDU. Where can academic staff and support staff, if they need that counseling, if they need that life coaching, where do they reach out?
All right. Okay. So we do have employee health and wellness. So that's usually under the HR department. So HR department, I'm not working that side, but I am familiar with it. So HR, they are the ones that would do the programs. For example, Wits now has contracted with Life Hospital. So Life Hospital, they have got a in-house now counselors who are working within the university. We first use Kayelo. I don't know if you are familiar with Kayelo. Yes. So now they have that is in-house. Then of course, I'm not sure. Then we just had a staff wellness program recently. And then secondly, I know vets it's compulsory to have a medical aid, but of course our medical aid plans are not going to be the same. Okay, so at the end of the day, perhaps maybe the question should be, or the conversation then should be, one of these days where we call in somebody now who is in the staff wellness to sort of give us those ideas, because I can imagine sometimes you do want such a thing, but now you don't even have time to go to the internet and search. Do you understand? So which means each and every institution needs to have a resource list that you can actually go to a website. Like, for example, if you go to CCDU, you go to our website, everything is clear there that this is what we do: career counseling, personal counseling, workshops, and all that stuff. So it needs to be something that's accessible.
But CCDU is more focused on students.
CCDU is mostly focused on students. Where we deal with staff, we work with staff, it's only when the staff, maybe the academics, can call us, and then we are doing when we are showing them about students who are at risk. How do you refer them? How do you help them? Then we train you on that. But still, it's about our resources. So which means the university then, as I know, for me personally, I know Kayelo and I has left, there is now Life. So I would know that, okay, if I need help, I'm going to go to that Life number, and it's on our emails. What I'm not sure of then is that, is it on the website somewhere?
That's what I wanted to ask. So for an academic listening to this conversation,
yes,
how do they access that? Who do they, or for a staff member listening to this, how would I access that Life person? Where do I go? What do I
HR
do?
is your point of departure, the human resource department, because there is employee wellness that is also aligned and attached to that.
So I would need to send HR an email?
Yes, you can send them an email, you can call them.
Okay.
Yes.
Which is quite something to do.
Exactly.
Would an academic want to do that? Would you like to alert HR that you're actually not coping?
That's why we were talking then also about private, because you do have your medical aid. So which means then, this is actually quite interesting now to really sit down and think about it, especially in the academic space, to say that maybe it's about time to build a resource, because at the end of the day, with us, we have been trained to have a resource list. So there are times where you are going to come to me, but there are some expertise that I might not have. So I don't have to be running around looking for how to help you. I just pull out a document and at that document, and then I email it to you, I tell you, I write you a letter sometimes.
But that's awesome for students.
For students,
Yes.
but for
Where
staff.
is that for staff? Like
Okay.
there should
See,
be
so
something
staff
for
go
staff.
to their doctors. Okay, now you might have a very nice GP
Okay.
who would
Luckily
take
for
the
you,
trouble
luckily.
and would, well, I have to say that because my husband's a very nice GP.
Lucky you.
And I know he does treat a lot of the with staff. So, but he would then, because he's very empathetic, so he would talk and all the rest, and he would refer on when he needs to. But there'd be that listening ear. But Zama's just pointed out that she
Not
wasn't feeling well,
Yes.
and she got absolutely no response. It was like, but you look fine, so take this or don't, and cheers.
I also
Yeah.
think that taking the effort to write an email, it's
an effort.
It's an effort, and it's quite intimidating.
That's why I think it's very intimidating.
Because now it's there, it's on record, it's in your
Forever.
email,
Yes.
it's in writing.
It's in your file.
You sent it to HR, and if we talk about the negative stigma attached, HR is now judging me.
So I think it's also the fact that if I have to take the effort to write an email, I might as well not do it.
Absolutely.
And you
you're
might
in
be
a-
in such a state of depression that
you
you're not
can't
you're not in a position to do it.
That's why I said, yes, it's an effort. You don't know how big that effort is.
Maybe the institutions, if they're listening to this, or the HR department listening to us, maybe they can comment, on our podcast and share with us where we can start if these are the issues.
Yes.
No, I was thinking along those lines as well, that perhaps then it should be, somebody should bring it up to HR to say, can you do a roadshow? Go to different departments and or create some events where you actually alert staff members that there is such employee mental health and wellness
Yes,
and then
then external
what to do.
resources
Yes.
as well.
And not for a negative, not the negative connotation,
Yeah.
but as she said, the shift needs to happen to
That's right.
personal development.
Personal development,
So
yes.
here's your professional development plan. Here's your personal development plan.
That's right.
This is your therapist that you can speak to.
Yeah.
Like, why is this not more public and open?
And when there's just so much, because I know that so many staff members are struggling.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I
Whether support or academic.
Yes.
Yes.
I know. I mean, obviously, Liz is one of those few ones who have her own coping mechanisms. You know, she's got her own ways. Ballet, and all of this. You know, but how many out there are really struggling?
Okay.
You know, because sometimes it might even be difficult to go to work.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't even have good relationships with your unit or your department, you know, or your supervisor or whatever. And you're thinking, I'm going to work. Already your mind affects your body and you're dragging your feet. Who do I go and speak to for my own personal development? I think perhaps HR then somehow, I echo what May was saying. If somebody from HR is listening or somebody who's got connections with HR, please alert them that this is much needed in the university.
Yes, absolutely.
I think I just want to ask with you, what are the dangers in someone not being aware of the mental illness that they might be having?
Okay.
Because I think at times it takes an extreme situation where somebody just, there's this behavior that we don't know where it comes from.
Okay.
It's only at that point then, obviously, then they get referred to a doctor only for them to now realize that they do have something. So how do we prevent such situations?
Okay, all right. Look, psychoeducation, which is my favorite work, actually, preventative work, it's very important because psychoeducation, and when we psychoeducate people, we need to use a holistic approach. The whole woman, the whole man, the whole whoever. You must know yourself in totally, family, because it can be family, it can be relationships. It's not always work. It could be children. It could be the neighbor. So at the end of the day, we need to understand. I always say we need to put more emphasis on the positive. Once you understand what is right, I'll make a quick example as we close. There's a man who was telling us, who's a detective. He was saying that when we were taught how to know fake money against real money, we were told to look more at the real. You concentrate on the real. Your eyes must be fixed on the real over and over and over again, so that by the time you are going to meet a fake, you will already know that this is fake. Do you understand? So I think now when we are doing these road shows and talking about mental health and mental illness, we are so focused on the bad side that we already know. I've been struggling for years. That's what I usually say to people. I understand that there are people who have been in a situation for 30 years. So if a person has been in a situation for 30 years, obviously you need to now start giving an ideal light that, have you thought of this? Then the person can be like, oh, this is new. So if you know what is good, the right thing through psychoeducation, that's why we say exercise, drink water, go have your hair done and all that, so that when your hair starts falling, then you realize that I'm not okay.
That's interesting.
I should say that my hair off.
Me too, I can feel my hair.
I think we've discussed this and we would like to have a follow-up, definitely. I think this is one of the topics that are really a necessity because it affects all humanity, especially it affects us as a vets community. Both staff and students. But for now, I'm going to say thank you so much, Prof. Liz. Thank you so much, Sutukazi, and thank you to my beautiful colleagues, and thank you to these two fabulous guests today. I think on the note of we will visit this again, I'm sure in one of the coming episodes, maybe next year. It's something that cannot just go on once. It needs to be something. Maybe next time we'll have somebody from from HR.
Yes.
But this is crucial because it affects our livelihood, it affects our work, it affects our families, it affects us as functioning, as you said.
Okay,
I don't know, you colleagues, Prof, is something you want to say when we're saying goodbye to the viewers?
I just want to thank you all for having me, for still putting up with me.
We appreciate you being here. Yes, thank you. What you've shared with us is really invaluable.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, Sutukazi, any final words?
Thank you so much, colleagues. And I just want to say that let us focus on what works.
Okay.
Then all other things will fall off.
Okay. I like that positivity. Okay. Thank you so much to you viewers. Please comment on this important topic of today. And we really would like to have your comments coming in, and we'd like to have your suggestions. We'd like to hear what is your view on mental health and wellness, and of course, sticking on the positive. Let's try and look at what works more than what doesn't work, so that what works then can be what is the shining point of our lives. Thank you.
Thank you.